All right, great. So let's get this underway here. So thanks for joining us today. Let me first introduce myself. My name's Andrew Schmidt. Recently, back in July, I joined Long. I came from the oil and gas industry, so this HVAC world. It's been a welcome change and a lot different for me, and it's been great. I work alongside Jeff McBride. We both represent Long for all VRV related projects. So for the obligatory sales pitch, please feel free to give either of us a call for any VRV questions you may have. Now, I'd like to introduce you guys to our guest speaker, Ed, today. Ed Mendieta is Daikin's VRV application and support specialist. Believe me, he can nerd out with the best of them when it comes to anything VRV related. So he is our go-to guy at Daikin for technical questions and concerns when it comes to any VRV related product. So today, Ed is going to be informing us briefly about Daikin's new floor plan addition to its VRV design software, which is called WebExpress. This is really exciting because it'll allow a more visual element to the design process, and it should help reduce design errors. As you guys know, VRV systems, they can be large and complex, and adding a visual element to the design process hopefully will help make the process more intuitive and again reduce errors. So go for it, Ed. It's all yours. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the intro, Andrew. Let's get started. All right. Well, again, my name is Ed Mendieta, and I will be getting you acquainted with our new 2D floor plan in WebExpress and to better understand its capabilities so that you can hopefully use it as part of an updated VRV selection workflow. So what is floor plan? It's a revision to the existing WebExpress tool in Daikin City. You follow all the same steps for access to WebExpress, only you create a floor plan version of the project instead of a standard schematic selection that you are currently using in WebExpress. Here's the basic process for creating a floor plan project. First of all, you import the 2D floor plan as an underlayer, define the reference point and scale, position your indoor unit, outdoor unit on the plan, you draw on the pipes, and when you're finished, you export the entire layout to PDF or CAD. And the pipe lengths and heights are also auto-determined, so you get more exact pipe lengths and you get more of a refined refrigerant charge calculation because you're taking into consideration more accurate runs of not just horizontal, but vertical pipe runs. And also you have a pretty cool compliance check for refrigerant because there is a check or a feature to where you can determine the volume in the smallest room. The other CAD solutions shown here are offline. In the background, our floor plan is online where the file is saved to the cloud. So that's how we differentiate ourselves. And it is our first web-based tool with a 2D floor plan. Our focus is on WebExpress so that you don't have to learn everything new. And there's no CAD license required, no additional software needed to be downloaded. Here's an example of a CAD building floor layout that you would import into the 2D floor plan. And then you lay in the units and the piping as shown here on this. And then you export to a CAD file as a separate layered CAD drawing. And you can also export as a PDF. So why use floor plan? As you can see here goes just a couple of snippets of the VRV selection project report and the output, which is a piping diagram. Now you'll get the same piping diagram in the floor plan version of WebExpress. However, in addition to that, in your report, you'll see that there is an image of the floor plan with the drawing of the layer of the piping and the indoor units in this particular floor plan, or the outdoor units if you're showing the rooftop. Plus, you'll also get a CAD drawing, a layered CAD drawing as an output. So consider the advantage of having access to floor plan schematic views as part of the WebEx selection process, and also having the ability to provide others with layered CAD files. There's also the added benefit of not having to enter pipe lengths manually. The floor plan does it for you automatically and much more accurately than the schematic version. Another advantage is to see the development. of your selection in WebExpress on the floor layout as part of the WebEx selection process, as opposed to only seeing it in tabular and piping diagram format in the schematic version. Andrew, you got anything to add here?
Yeah, I guess you can see in that middle diagram on your slide here, it doesn't really necessarily visually show lengths, like different pipe lengths. But when you look over at a map view, which is what this floor plan is, it will show that right away. So you'll kind of more intuitively understand the system. So that's really all I have to add. Thanks, Ed.
All right. Well, in order to do this, you'll need to become more proficient in floor plan. So I'll go over what's different from the schematic version, as well as getting you acquainted with the features of floor plan. So here goes some of the differences between the schematic and the floor plan that I'm showing you. There's a schematic, I keep on referring to it, but there's a schematic version, which is the one that you're used to, the existing, and then the revision, which is called the floor plan. There is a schematic versus floor plan option that you choose. There's an undo redo feature. There's 2 new tabs in addition to all the ones you see at the top of your WebEx file, or when you're selecting that in WebEx. That's the building tab and the floor plan tab. I'll go over these, plus a validate button, because at the end of entering all your piping lengths and your equipment, you hit about validate. Also, you have the same units tab, and you'll have a report output in either PDF or in a layered CAD file. Some of the ways, or just to know what the difference is between the two, which is the schematic and the floor plan, is that there is not the possibility of converting from schematic to floor plan. Now, you can export, for example, indoor units, and I'm not going to show you how to do that here because it's a bit detailed, but you can import that. If you picture a table, just import the table of your indoor units and it'll show up in the floor plan, so you can just move those over into the floor plan when you're developing it. And there's no possibility to convert from floor plan to schematic. When you create a floor plan file, you'll see that image right there, which is the up arrow and the side arrow that's circled on the slide here. This is the look of the new tab, the building tab, which is in red on the top. And so when you drop down, you'll see that it lists the floors. And then you have your workspace to where you move in that layered PDF file of the floor so that you can lay in your equipment and your piping. And then off to the right is a properties tab so that whatever you're working on shows up on the right-hand side. If you see here on the first area that I showed you, which is the floors, you can move those floors or change the location of the floor. Of course, when you change the floor, you have to also change the labeling of the floor. You can do that either with by moving this gray area physically up and down with your cursor, or you can click on this move and up down button. Also, this is a visual. It's not a graphic that is on the floor plan, but it's just to help visualize the way that you stack floors, and you have reference points, which will allow the program to see that and make measurements from. So when you bring in your floor into floor plan, you have to have a reference point and scale everything. But that's basically what it looks like when you stack the floors. And then when you bring in your actual measurements, you do that in the properties plane, and in the pane, and you can see that on the floor heights. You can either do it for the roof or for all other floors, the distance from the piping to the concrete on the roof, or here on the floor, you can show the distance from slab to slab, or from a slab or the concrete to the false ceiling, or to the ceiling for the piping. The next new tab is the floor plan. So this has its respective areas. You'll see that it has a toolbox, it has the floors, it has the working area, and also the properties for the equipment or whatever it is that you're working on. You can search for equipment in this application, and this will show the calculation result errors more specifically. Explanation on a larger scale as far as rules will show up down here. And then here is where, if you import anything, as I described earlier, from other projects, they'll show up right here so you can click and drag into the floor plan. The first tab, which is the toolbox pane, lists all of the equipment that you can choose to work on. And the one that I'm going to show you here is the shaft, because that is different than our existing schematic. So when you bring in that shaft and you drag it into your floor plan and you click on that, you're going to get this on your properties pane, and you have a shaft designer. You click on that and you see how you get a sectional view of the floors that you've created, and you basically click on that to the outdoor unit, and that's how you connect from the floors to the outdoor unit outside. So if you have a heat pump and a heat recovery unit on the top, these will be two separate lines. This is an example if you have a shaft on one side of the building and then you have a shaft on the other side of the building, you basically run that line from one shaft to the other in order to connect those. This is that auto calc where I showed you, or where I talked about earlier. You click on this measure, you click on the measurement of your smallest room, and you automatically get calculations which will tell you whether or not if you're in compliance with ASHRAE 15. Another feature is that you get to line up your equipment more accurately from its relative position. Here showing the outdoor unit from the position of the outdoor unit to the rooftop. And indoors, the same thing if you want to identify or to be more specific in terms of the distance from your indoor unit to walls or to the ceilings. I'm sorry, that's just to the ceilings. This other slide here shows the validate button. So when you click the validate, it auto calculates. If you highlight the equipment, you get more of a specific description here on the right, more general rules here on the bottom. And then you have all of your mouse gesture features, which allow you to do straight lines or bends in the lines. When you connect your indoor unit to your run of piping, you'll see that it automatically put in a ref net. Now you could play around with that to make it look better, but that's just an example. You also have a flip ref net feature so that it's on the right side of the pipe. Here's the units tab. It's the same as what you get in the schematic, only this is read only. All of your modifications or revisions need to happen in the floor plan tab. Then you report output. You can create the regular Word output, or I said regular Word. You could create the report in Word, or you can create the floor plan drawings in CAD or in PDF.
2-minute warning, Ed.
Yeah. Oh, 2 minute?
Yep.
Okay. And then on the report output, you have on top of what's already available, extra information about each floor and the shaft information. Now you need to go to printout options and make sure that the additional checks are marked so that this extra floor plan information appears in the Word report. And here's an example of the output for the layered CAD drawings. And on the PDF, that includes floor plan images, multi-page document, and shaft designer view. Here's the PMN, which summarizes everything that I talked about in more detail. It also gives on the last page links to the demo video and quick reference videos. Here's the overall floor plan demo video. And then we have 5 training demos, and which include the building tab, adding units, tips and tricks for the mouse and keyboard gestures, features in the floor plan tab. I recommend using this one right here as a reference, maybe making a printout of this sheet for reference when using the floor plan, because you need to become proficient in the new mouse click combinations in order to navigate your way through the program. And I think that's about it. So let me, I don't know if you're gonna have any time for questions, but that's basically the end of the presentation. Andrew?
All right, Ed. Well, thanks for going through that with us. If anyone does have interest in using this software, please feel free to call me. I can kind of lead you through the steps of getting set up with it. Again, thanks for calling in today, guys. So long's coffee break, and till next time. Have a good one.